Hello? Hello? I think, not sure if you guys are hearing me. I don't see any comments. I hope that, hello, good morning. I think we're good. If somebody can tell me if I'm being heard, that would be great, because then I know that I can go on. Trying to see. Okay, good. All right. Thank you, Pastor Sheldon. Good morning. I'm tuning in live, or I'm doing this live stream from Green Bay, from my house in Green Bay, Wisconsin. I had to isolate myself in one of the rooms because my kids are up, and usually when I'm home, they're like, "Papa, come and play with us," which I really enjoy. But sometimes I'm trying to get some stuff done, then I have to enclose myself into a room. So anyway, I want to thank Zach and Myung and Pastor Sheldon for allowing me to share a word of encouragement, a devotional thought here today. I know that I can't necessarily see your guys' responses, or maybe in the chat I can do that, but I'm pretty sure most of you guys, as you guys have been out at the stores, have noticed that not just the toilet paper has been out, but also water. So I went into Costco and I needed to get some water, and the whole backside of Costco, which is really a huge wall, usually filled with water bottles and cases of water bottles, was just empty. Like there was nothing. And I was like, what? And then later on, of course, they got more water and the shipment went through. But it was just really like, man, like people are really eager to get some water. My wife was also telling me too that because of the last 2 or 3 weeks, I think King Arthur brand of flour sold more flour in these 2 or 3 weeks than they have between Thanksgiving and Christmas combined. So that goes to show you that people were saying, hey, like, if we're going to stay home, we need to do some baking and some stuff. So I thought that was kind of cool. Maybe you guys also have other stories and other cool details of the virus and what you guys have lived and seen. But this morning I want to concentrate on those two things, water and flour. I want to point your direction to 1 Kings chapter 17. And here we see Elijah, the prophet, being introduced. Right? He just all of a sudden comes up on the scene, and he is asked by God to go and talk to King Ahab and to let him know that he was going to stop, that God was going to stop the dew and the rain for the next few years until God gave the word. Elijah goes and does that, and the rain stops. God then asks Elijah, or commissions Elijah, to go to a brook to go and drink from the brook, and then God commanded ravens to go and feed him, to give him bread and meat. So this is a little side note. It's interesting and fascinating to me as I've been home and I've been able to see things outside my house, that creatures are just so intelligent. They're not just dumb animals. They're not just birds or raccoons or squirrels that are just roaming around just like, they're animals who obey and trust God too. And the Bible has all kinds of other things to say. But anyway, God commissions the ravens to go and feed Elijah. Then the brook dries up. And this is the story then that I want to concentrate on for the rest of this morning. The widow of Zarephath. God asked Elijah to go to Zarephath, a city near Sidon. This city happened to be a city that had worshipped Baal. Right? God asks Elijah to go into that, and that he was going to commission a widow to give him food and to provide for his needs. So he goes in and he sees a woman picking up sticks. And as she's picking up these sticks, he asks her for a drink of water, which I don't really know what that means, but he was probably thirsty. He probably had a long journey. But he asks her for water, knowing that there was really hardly any water left around. That's the reason why he left where he was at. But he asked her for water. And she goes and starts making her way towards her house to get him his water. And then he said, oh, by the way, can you also bring me something to eat? Because I'm rather hungry. She stops and she's like, actually, I don't really have much left at my house. I have only a little bit of flour, and I have only a little bit of oil left. And this is enough to keep my son and myself fed until our food runs out and we're gonna die. I love bread, but I think that if I put if I use maseca, which is what tortillas are made from. My wife makes tortillas. I think it would hit a little bit more home. So it's like she was saying, I only can make 2 tortillas for myself and for my son. If I was Elijah, I'd be like, you know what? Like, I'm sorry I asked you. Maybe there's another widow here that I could ask who probably has enough food because, God is going to commission her to give me food. I'm sorry. Maybe if you still can give me a drink of water, I'll be good and I'll be on my way. But Elijah says, no. This is the woman that is going to have enough food for me. And he tells her in verse 14 of chapter 17. He says, for this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. There will always be flour and olive oil left in your containers until the time when the Lord sends rain and the crops grow again. Then the next line, it reads, so she did as Elijah said. And she and Elijah and her family continued to eat for many days. And there was always enough flour and oil left in the containers, just as the Lord had promised through Elijah. Okay, I'm going to pause there. He's asking a woman who is really on the brink of death to feed him. I think about putting myself in the shoes of even the kid. If I hear my mom coming back home and she had told me she went out to get sticks, and she comes back home and I know the drill, she was going to go and make this bread and give me one and her one, and then we're going to die. If she were to tell me, actually, this bread is not for you or for me, it's actually for the gentleman who's outside, who's a stranger, who's coming and asking of food, I'd be like, what? Like, who is this dude? Like, does he not know what's happening right now? Yeah, she puts her trust in this stranger. But beyond that, she puts her trust in this stranger's God. Again, going back, Baal was a god of this region, or probably other parts, because that's the reason why Elijah had gone out to tell King Ahab, rain is going to stop, dew is going to stop, because Baal worship and pagan worship is coming all throughout this land. This god Baal happens to be the god of rain. And so I'm assuming, right, that the people there had been constantly praying and requesting of Baal, Baal, please rain down because we need some rain. Some scholars say that during the dry season, Baal needed to be woken up or brought back from the dead to bring back rain. Of course, there was no rain. Even with all the sacrifices, the feasts, the prayers, nothing, nothing, nothing. God, on the other hand, Jehovah, Yahweh, says, I have the power to stop the rain, but I also have the power to bring back rain. Oh, and by the way, while all this is happening, I also have the power to provide and to still do miracles in your life for those who trust me. So there was enough food left, or there was enough flour and there was enough oil left in those containers for Elijah, the widow, and her son. Maybe other people have quoted, maybe other people have read a little bit more about this, and maybe their imagination takes them to thinking that the flour was probably filled all the way to the top, right? And that the oil container from down here filled up all the way to the top. But I want to think about it this way. That even when the widow used the oil, the little bit that she had, and she used the little bit of flour that she had, these two things never exhausted. I think that would actually be better for the situation. It was a constant reminder to the widow, to her son, and to Elijah that God is the one that provides. Oh, they probably, maybe they drew a line and said, okay, well, at this line, we'll actually see if this God actually is true in what he says. Let's draw a line and let's see if the oil will actually really exhaust. Oh, it didn't. We used some. Well, what about the flour? Well, it's here, but it never exhausted. It was a constant reminder. It was a constant opportunity for them to trust in this foreign God. And actually, let me see. When the widow was talking about Elijah's God, she actually says, your God. She doesn't call him her God. She's calling Elijah's God his God. She doesn't worship this God. She doesn't believe in this God. But in this one instance, God is allowing her to come out of this pagan religion or pagan belief in this other God and bringing her to believe in Yahweh. The story continues, where now in verse 17, it says that the woman's son became sick and that he grew worse and worse and worse, and then he finally died. Then she said to Elijah, O man of God, what have you done to me? Have you come to point out my sins and kill my son? All right. And when I read that line, I was like, wait, time out. Wait, didn't you already anticipate that your son was going to die like earlier on? And you really had you're thinking, well, like, it's going to happen. We have no food. Okay, he's going to die. Yet here, maybe there's something in her mind that she's really still not comprehending, that maybe Elijah coming in and being connected with God, being God's messenger, he's out to get her, to repay evil for the good that she did to him. And Elijah takes her son and he pleads with God to heal this woman's son. He lays on him. He's brought back to life. And then she says at the end in verse 24, now I know for sure that you are a man of God and that the Lord truly speaks through you. Here, she's still not really thinking that this God is actually her God. I think that there's still some room there's still some room for her to still think, well, you know what, I'm not really truly part of that God's religion or whatever have you. That's this man's God. But yet this man's God is God. This man's God, this guy right here in my house actually truly speaks what the Lord has told him. She not only is saved from death once and her son through the food that God provides, but also any parent would never want to see their child die before they even do. And yet God provides life for this kid. There was an opportunity that in the famine for God to supply a need and to be enough and to use the little faith that this woman had and use it to do wonders. Maybe some of you identify yourself with this woman who have little faith, and you want to have bigger faith, but it's really difficult. Yet God wants to use your little faith, wants to use the little that you have and expand it, multiply it, provide your need when you need it most. Everybody wants to have big faith. I know I want to have greater faith than I have now. Yet God uses what we have to make it greater, to make it bigger, to make it stronger, to put more trust in him. He's the one who ultimately gives us this faith. But maybe some of you are thinking, well, no, actually, Kevin, I actually have pretty strong faith. I'm pretty confident in my faith. I'm pretty confident in this God. Well, let's look at Elijah. He continues going, and the Bible says that he goes and he has this big, wonderful experience on Mount Carmel, which is another huge and tremendous story. But then in chapter 19, it says that he goes and he hides away from Jezebel, a lady who was no joke. You had 5 or 6 different events happening in Elijah's life that allowed for him to be able to say, hey, like, God is God and I have nothing to fear because he protects me. But then after Mount Carmel, he runs and hides and he's afraid for his life. That's what 1 Kings chapter 19 and verse 3 says, that he's afraid for his life. This tells me that even when we have strong faith, even when we have an encouragement in God, there will be times when our faith will flounder. What will we do? Well, the recipe is simple. God uses the little that we have, or the much that we have, to make it big, to strengthen us and to walk alongside of us and to prove to us that he is trustworthy and that we have nothing to fear. I want to challenge you and encourage you today that as you walk through your day, as you go through your day, that you trust God, that you have faith in him, and that whatever trials come your way today, that you will be encouraged that God is by your side and God is with you and God is for you and not against you. God bless you all. Thank you so much for tuning in, and may you have a nice day. Take care. Bye-bye.